On July 16, 2021, Midland requested that the FCC waive certain sections of its Part 95 rules to extend data privileges that are currently limited only to handheld GMRS devices to include mobile radios. On November 29, 2023, the Office of Managing and Directors Bureau issued a public notice stating that interested persons may file statements opposing or supporting the petition for rulemaking within 30 days. What exactly is this all about? If this petition is approved, what does it mean for the future of the general mobile radio service? Will this be a good or a bad thing for the GMRS airwaves going forward?
Well, I'm a big fan of what Midland is asking for here, Rick. I think you probably are as well. I believe a while back, GMRS did not allow any kind of digital data at all. Garmin made a request, I don't know, a number of years ago now, maybe even 10 years ago, to have a waiver for their devices to transmit digital data. And then with the 2017 GMRS reform, they just kind of wrapped digital data into it and made it just part of GMRS. But they put restrictions in there to where digital data could only be transmitted on certain frequencies, and it could only be, can't go through repeaters. And it was limited to handheld radios only. And that is basically what Midland is trying to have reversed. They're trying to extend the digital privileges, I guess, to mobile radios and up to 50 watts of power.
You like this idea then? And I have to admit, Midland is taking the they're really taking the initiative here to really take GMRS to another level, or to the next level, I should say.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the way the rules were written previously, limited to handheld only, it doesn't make any sense. Why cripple mobile radios? Because that's essentially what they're doing, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think there are a couple of schools of thought on this. I know there's some folks out there, some GMRS users that are really, really welcoming this with open arms. And then there are others that are not so enthusiastic about it, let me say. And then there's some that are somewhere in the middle saying, well, what does this really mean? I mean, how is this going to work going forward? And they're not really sure about it. So I think what we should do here is go through and find out exactly what's going on here before we go any farther with it, so that everyone understands what this is all about. Now, here's the overview.
I think that's a good idea. Let me say something first. We are a dealer for Midland. We've been selling Midland radios for a long time now, probably 15 years. But I just want to make sure everyone is aware. We don't have any inside information on this. I'm getting this information from the FCC. We first learned about this in July of this year when the FCC approved their request for a waiver. And now it seemed like with the most recent request for comment that the FCC did, it started to pick up some traction across the internet. I saw it on Reddit, a few other places. So we decided to talk about it on the show since it seemed to be picking up some steam. But all I'm going to be doing here is speculating. Please don't think I have any inside information on this, or that anything that I'm going to guess about is actually in the works or going to be coming anytime soon, because I'm just guessing.
And all the information I have here is just pretty much from the FCC website and their documentation. So, yeah, same here.
Yeah, I don't want people to think that we know more than we do. We're looking at the FCC's information. We don't have any inside product info from Midland on product.
Right. Well, with that, let me give you a little overview as to what's going on. So on July 16th, 2021, Midland requested that the Commission waive certain sections of its Part 95 rules to extend data privileges currently limited to handheld GMRS devices to non-handheld mobile units. On October 12th, 2021, the Bureau sought comment on Midland's waiver request. At that point, 11 parties, a mix of off-road enthusiasts and GMRS licensees, submitted comments in support of Midland's waiver request. No party opposed the waiver request or raised concerns. On November 12th, 2021, Midland submitted an amendment to its waiver request and also responded to the questions posed by the Commission in the public notice. Let's fast forward 2 years later. On July 24th, 2023, the waiver was granted with the following conditions. Now, keep in mind, this was mulled over for 2 years, for about 2 years.
That's like the blink of an eye in the FCC world, isn't it?
Yeah, if you look at what happened previously with the Part 95 rule changes back in, started in 2010, and they approved it in 2017? That was, this was kind of short compared to that.
That's nothing.
Right. So on July 24th, 2023, the waiver was granted with the following conditions. These conditions had to be met. Transmitters operating under this waiver must not be capable of modification by end users to adjust the frequencies of operation. The operation under this waiver is restricted to the 462 megahertz main and interstitial channels. Operation up to 50...
Now, let's speak English there.
Okay.
The 462 main, and we're talking about channels 1 through 7 and 15 through 22.
Right. Those are the GMRS simplex channels.
So the repeater channels and the 8 through 14, which are the low power channels, are still excluded.
Correct. The next one, and there's another condition here, operation at up to 50 watts is restricted to the 462 megahertz main channels, not including the interstitial channels. So 50 watts is the 15 through 22 channels. So you cannot transmit at over 5 watts on 1 through 7, which is the same rules that we have today. Correct. The next condition is digital data transmissions may not be sent more than once every 10 seconds, and each transmission must be no more than 50 milliseconds in duration. Now, that's not a very long time. 50 milliseconds kind of, it goes by like that. It's very quick.
Yeah, and actually the 10-second limit, that is more. That's longer than what Midland wanted. Midland asked, I believe, for around 3 seconds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To be able to transmit digital data.
Yeah, so this is a very short duration. All right, the next one is digital data transmissions may only be made when 2 or more users are actively linked together through a smartphone application. The next one, digital data transmission may only occur when the channel is clear. Midland must do the following. They must A, ensure that its radios are able to detect when a channel is being used and must not transmit data while the channel is being used, and B, provide the Bureau in advance of equipment authorization with a description of how Midland will ensure that it only transmits data when the channel is not being used. That's a bit of a tall order there, I'd have to say. So basically what's going on here is if it's going to transmit digital data, it can't interfere with the normal operation of the radio, pretty much.
Yeah, Midland explained that they are going to use busy channel lockout. Mm-hmm. So basically, if the channel has activity, it sounds like they're not going to transmit digital data if there's already activity on the channel. So it's going to be very similar to the busy channel lockout feature that already exists on a lot of radios, where it will block you from pressing the push to talk if activity is detected. So that doesn't seem like it's too new.
Well, it's not new, but the restriction here is that you're not going to be able to disable busy channel lockout in that regard in a case like that. That's my understanding.
Right. Correct. They would not be able to force. They wouldn't be able to have a setting to allow users to say, I don't care if somebody's talking, let's transmit my location anyway.
Okay, here's the other one. While Midland must comply with the duty cycle as required by Section 95.1787A3 of the Commission's rules, it may transmit up to 50 milliseconds of data every 10 seconds where it can confirm at the beginning of each session of use that the transmitter is in a rural area as evidenced by the following method, or via an alternate method deemed equivalent by the Bureau. And this is the method that they're going to go with. The transmitting unit must use real-time GPS data to confirm that the device is in a rural county or census tract. In other words, with a population density of 100 or fewer persons per square mile. And there's one more stipulation. There's one more
So
condition.
hold on. Let me make sure I
Okay.
understand that one now. Are you saying that they're only allowed to transmit digital data when they're able to confirm by GPS data that they're in a rural area?
Well, we're talking about transmitting it up to 50 milliseconds. 50 milliseconds of data every 10 seconds. So
well, that's what
right. It must be no more
right?
than 50 milliseconds of duration. That's right. You're right. So apparently it has to be able to confirm at the beginning of each session of use that the transmitter is in a rural area, as evidenced by the following method, by using real-time GPS data. So in other words, they have to be able to use GPS data to confirm that, I guess, that they are in a rural area of a density of 100 or fewer persons per square mile in order to transmit up to 50 milliseconds of data every 10 seconds. So,
and I guess if you're not in a rural area, then it's going to fall back to what the rules were previously, which says you can only transmit every 30 seconds.
I think that's my understanding. That's my understanding as well.
The current rules say that digital data transmissions must not be sent more frequently than one digital data transmission within a 30-second period, except that a GMRS unit may automatically respond more than one interrogation request received in a 30-second period. So if another radio asks for your location, it could respond.
Yeah. Well, there's one more condition, and this is condition 8. Midland must file a petition for rulemaking within 60 days from release of this order seeking rule changes that would permit more flexible use of the band. The rulemaking petition should, at a minimum, request any and all rule changes that may be necessary for Midland services to be provided over this spectrum. Now, here's what happened. Now, those were the conditions, and the last one's very important because that's what Midland did. On September 20th, 2023, Midland filed a petition for rulemaking within 60 days from release of the order seeking rule changes. And on November 29th, 2023, the Office of Managing and Directors Bureau issued a public notice stating that interested persons may file statements opposing or supporting the petition of rulemaking within 30 days. So what this means is, and of course we're recording this podcast in early December, so you still have about 20 some odd days to go to respond, pro or con, to this petition. And if you want to do that, you would need to go to the FCC's website to do so. Now, having said that,
yeah, let's talk about. It sounds like we've been. It probably sounds like you're listening to a lawyer podcast for the last.
And I'm not a lawyer, and I don't play one on TV. Not a disclaimer there.
Let's talk about what Midland says they're going to do. Mm-hmm. In this. Let's see, what is it? It's from July 24th. This is a response from the FCC where they grant Midland's waiver request. So all the rule changes that Rick just read through, these are, as I understand it, legal for Midland right now. Midland has been granted a waiver of the FCC's rules. They can build a mobile radio that transmits digital data as long as it conforms to the rules that Rick just read. But that's fun and all, but what is Midland wanting to do? This document says, quote, Midland has stated that it intends to develop a smart device application for off-road enthusiasts that connects via Bluetooth to a GMRS mobile radio to allow voice/text communications and the transmission of GPS data, enabling groups to track the location of individual members during off-road travels. So I'm seeing that as a smartphone application, so an iPhone app that talks Bluetooth to your radio that allows you to send text messages and track a group that you're traveling with. Like say you're traveling with 10 other people. You all connect or create a group and you're all connected to the same group. All of your radios will send out transmissions to stay in contact every 10 seconds if you're in a rural area. And you'll be able to communicate via text and see where everyone is, perhaps on a map or a list of coordinates, something along those lines. That's what pops into my head when I read that description from this document. What do you think, Rick?
I'll tell you, I have my own thoughts on it. I pretty much agree that that's what technically would be happening or should be happening in regards to the proposed rule changes. But I have mixed feelings about this whole thing overall, to be honest. But before I talk about my thoughts on it, I do want to state that I did some research. I checked around like you did, looked around on Reddit and Facebook and some of these other groups, and looking around to see what the word on the street was, pretty much, to find out what people were thinking about this. My takeaway was this. Some GMRS operators think this rule change will jam the GMRS airwaves with constant data bursts on already crowded channels. That's one of that's what one of the rules of thought are from this, and that they're concerned that the data will discourage other radio users from monitoring the channels in certain areas, particularly in wilderness areas, that would maybe reduce the possibility that they might be able to pick up emergency voice calls and things like that. And those are some of their concerns. Those are some of the concerns that they have. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, you have other GMRS operators who totally support this idea, and we see that in comments from our blog and our forums and on our side, phone calls that we get from some of the radios that we carry that offer GPS and connectivity and things like that, where they're just clamoring for this kind of expansion of the use of digital data, and I understand. I fully understand that too. I think there are concerns, but I think there's also a lot of anticipation on the other side for those who really, really want this. And my thought's somewhere in the middle, because I've kind of looked at both sides, and they all make good points. Everybody makes a good point about this. The thing is, there are only so many GMRS channels that can be utilized, that are available for the service. And, is this really going to help, or is it going to hinder the use of GMRS from people that really aren't interested in any of this? They just want to pick up their radios and go. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I think
it's a bad idea to make GMRS stagnant because of FCC rules that are locking you in. Now, I understand what people are saying with, maybe if there's a lot of digital data and we start transmitting location information and text messaging over these channels at 50 watts, you're going to end up getting a lot of unwanted transmissions. I get that, but I don't know. It seems like this can provide functionality that enhances the service. Think about off-roaders. When you're outside of cell phone coverage, using radio communication is a great way to stay in touch. And I mean, this technology could save lives. And if there are problems because of it, then I see that as an opportunity for the FCC to make further changes to enhance GMRS. If GMRS is so popular that the channels are becoming crowded, then we need to make GMRS even better. And there's other things they can do. GMRS right now is a wideband analog service. The FCC could expand the number of channels. They could allow digital and maybe a narrower bandwidth to fit more channels in the same space. There are and I don't want to get into how that will be done.
Yeah, that's another discussion altogether, because I could think right now of the limitations there. I mean, where would
we could have a lot of podcasts on how that would shake out, but I'm just saying the FCC has a lot of options, and it's a good thing if there's so many users using GMRS that that we don't have enough channels.
Mm-hmm.
I see that as positive, and adding more functionality to the service. While there could be problems from it, I wouldn't want to run from it.
I hear that too, and I agree with you in the sense that I don't think GMRS should be stuck in in a place where there's no room for growth, and that it's going to be archaic, and 20 or 30 years from now, people are going to maybe bail on GMRS because it is archaic at that point.
Right.
And you kind of have to keep moving, keep moving and growing in order for the service to thrive.
GMRS needs to become what people want it to become and what people need from it. And you've got to give Midland a lot of credit. I have a lot of respect for them pushing this service forward. It's not easy to work with the FCC and ask them to change the rules. And I'm sure this was very costly for Midland to take this on. And I think it only makes the service better. And I'm happy they did it.
I want to take this moment to say something about that, because some of the comments that I saw in some of the forums going around, people were saying things like, well, Midland's obviously doing it because they're a business and they want to expand what they're doing with their business and expand their products, and they're not considering GMRS or the people in GMRS at all. And I really take issue with that, because I disagree with that. Now, yeah, sure, Midland's a business. They're in business to make and sell radios, but I don't think that's a bad thing at all. As a longtime Midland fan of Midland radios, what they're doing, I understand what they're doing. And what they're doing is they're trying to get to the next level, to try to move GMRS along. They're doing this for the off-roaders and some of the other people that have, I'm sure, requested this sort of functionality from their radios, and they're looking to see what they can do for their users, to make that work. And I do give them kudos for it, because, as you said, yes, it's an expensive proposition to do this. It's not easy to do. It takes a long time, as we saw with that 2-year gap there between the time they initially submitted that petition to the time that the FCC responded to them and is going through this process. Yes, Midland stands to gain from it. But what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that at all? And in fact, if Midland is going to invest in making these radios that have this kind of functionality, providing it all gets approved, in the end, who's really benefiting from that? Well, the people using the radios. So I don't see anything wrong with that. And for those naysayers who are just kind of, who might be trying to dump on Midland for taking that kind of initiative, I say, hey, more power to Midland. I really.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. This only works out for Midland. I mean, of course, Midland's doing this because they want people to buy their products, and they're a company and they're in it to make a profit. Mm-hmm. But they're only going to be successful if they're making products that people want and people buy those products. Mm-hmm. So they succeed by giving people what they want.
Absolutely. I think they're making the right moves here. So now, whether the FCC will ultimately approve it, it's kind of looking like it might, unless there's a lot of pushback. Now, I did read a couple of comments that have been posted so far, and I'm not going to read through them, but very.
I think it's a done deal. I mean, the FCC has already granted Midland the waiver request, so Midland can go ahead and make their product. I think the only thing that's still up in the air is, can other companies, like Midland has to, as I understand it, and I'm no attorney, I don't know what I'm talking about, but as I read it, Midland has to make a proposal for what the official rule changes would be that would apply to everyone else. So right now, Midland is the only one that can sort of go and do something like this, but that's probably going to change, assuming the FCC approves this petition that was just submitted.
Well, my understanding of this petition is that if they're going to approve making these rule changes to Part 95 to allow these things, that's going to apply across the board. Those are going to be Part 95 rule changes. So not only Midland, but any other manufacturer could also follow suit. That's my understanding.
Yeah, I believe that's the case with the petition that was filed in in September. But the one with all the detail that we were looking at previously from July, I believe that applies only to Midland. Midland has the waiver granted for them at this time.
Well, we shall see what happens out of this, and it sounds like this might happen fairly quickly. Now, of course, I could be completely wrong about this, as I have been before.
A year and a half? A year?
Not 7, I don't think. But
I don't think this is going to be quick at all. Like,
you don't think so?
Well, I think that most people listening to this podcast would think quick is maybe 60 to 90 days, and I don't think it's going to take 60 to 90. I think it wouldn't surprise me if it's a year or more. Look, it took them 10 years to do the Part 95. And I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm no attorney. I have to read through this FCC stuff 10 times for it to make any sense to me. But I'm not expecting this to be a quick thing. But I can't wait to see what Midland's working on.
I don't know if they're just giving folks 30 days to comment on this. Well, I guess that's a standard procedure anyway. But if they're just giving folks 30 days to comment, it could be, who knows? It could be within the next year, maybe the next 6 months. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. But anything's possible. Anything is possible at all.
You know what, Rick? There's probably some people out there listening to this that are smarter than we are and can tell us and comment and let us know when to expect an answer from the FCC.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, these are our opinions for the proposed rule changes, but what are yours? What's your opinion? Send them in. Email us at show@by2wayradios.com. Tell us what your thoughts are. Drop your comments here on the show episode on our blog, or in any of the venues where we have the show, or on the YouTube channel or Rumble, or wherever we're at with the, wherever we. If you're watching with the video, if you're watching the video version of it, drop your comments in the comments boxes and let us know what you think about all this. You for it, against it? Kind of indifferent, like I don't care. Anywhere across that spectrum, just let us know. Any other comments on this?
I don't think so. I'm excited to see what comes of it.
All right,
Midland has something cooking. That's pretty clear.